Welcome back to Morning Drive. We continue our discussion on racing sports in America, this being a premier week in the game with the PGA Championship, the one and only major in this wraparound season. And with that, I'm pleased to welcome in Rachel Melendez, Mabee, the program specialist for PGA Works. PGA Works is an organization within the PGA of America that focuses on diversity and inclusion, making sure that a diverse group of talented professionals are given equal opportunity in the golf industry. Rachel, good morning. Before we begin with the PGA of America, I want to begin with you. How did you find your way to the game of golf in the first place?
Well, thank you, Damon, for having me this morning. As cliche as it sounds, it was my father. It was 100% my father. He was a bona fide golf nut. And I often kid around with him I'm 11 years younger than my brother, and he started with my brother and it never took. And I really think when I came along, he was like, you know what, I'll try with the girl. And it stuck, and it's been our bond until he passed. A few years ago, he was my only teacher, my caddy, my biggest cheerleader, but 100% it was my father.
I love that anecdote, and so many of us have been introduced to the game by our parents. How did you find your way in junior golf and amateur golf? I know you played in college as a minority.
I was born in Puerto Rico and started my junior golf career really on the island. And actually with Chichi Rodriguez, who was instrumental in junior golf tours on the island. And when I moved to the United States, I moved to the state of Georgia. And I think I always had the emotional intelligence that I was the other on my golf team. I was the only female on my golf team. I was the only Black female on my golf team. But really until recently, until sort of the national discussion that's happening now, did I have a reflection as to the true headwinds that I really faced. It's the discrimination that I faced. One story really comes to mind is, as we all are golfers and we all have those really bad rounds, I was at a junior golf tournament at a country club in the South in Atlanta. And I played, the worst round of golf. I was, probably the bottom of the list as far as a leaderboard goes. And as we all can sympathize, I was just, my head was in my hands, all angry. And two maintenance gentlemen came up to me and were running up to me as if I was, a celebrity. And quite frankly, just told me, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for playing today. And in my mind, it was, what are you talking about? Like, I just played the worst round of golf. Like, what in the world are you thanking me for? And they really seriously just looked at me and said, thank you for being here, because they won't even let us play here. And they were two Black gentlemen who were on the maintenance crew. And again, through my reflection really recently, are these stories starting to pop in my head that even at that young age, I was a representation of something I really couldn't even grasp. I've realized that I sort of lost myself in the eyes of others, to conform, to adapt, to be a little less Black, to make people feel more comfortable. But within this national conversation, listen, I'm unapologetic about who I am. I'm Black. I'm a Black woman, and I'm a Black woman in golf. So what I stand for now, I'm quite unapologetic about it. And I think that's really what drives me into what I do every day with PGA Works, and the headwinds that I did face, because I ultimately want to be a representation for more people of color, particularly more Black women, to get into this industry, to extend that invitation out.
It sounds like you faced some headwinds, Rachel, in your past, and some would say that the game is still facing those headwinds. What kept you in the game of golf instead of saying, you know what, I'm done. These headwinds are too much. I'm going to find something else to do.
Well, I'm quite a fiery Latina, so I think that part of it was that, but part of it also was my father. To be really cliche about it, he was my biggest cheerleader, and he did ultimately drive me. But I also have to give a lot of credit to my great grandmother. Her name is Mamie Kirkland, and she was born in Mississippi. She died just this year at the young age of 111 years old. And she fled Mississippi at a very young age because her family was set to be lynched. Her father and her business partner were set to be lynched. And they fled Mississippi. And it took her literally 100 years to go back. She never wanted to talk about Mississippi. She never wanted to acknowledge that part of her past, but she did. And she went back. The New York Times actually covered her journey going back to Mississippi. Her story, I mean, she faced the race riots, the Red Summer of violence, and she went back to face it head on. And she healed from it. That was part of her healing. And I draw a lot of inspiration from that because she faced what was quite possibly a really ugly, dark time in our past. And the way that she faced it drove me to still continue to be who I am, but still in golf.
What would you say is your primary focus with PGA Works?
Ultimately, really, Damon, I lead the execution of the platform. The PGA of America has always been committed to evolving the composition of the golf industry's workforce. And part of that commitment, part of that dedication comes to life through PGA Works. And PGA Works specifically is designated for really filling the pipeline with diverse talent. And we launched it back in 2017, actually. That's really when PGA Works came to life. And we've leveraged fellowships, scholarships, career exploration events, even our collegiate championship, our PGA Works collegiate championship, to really further extend that invitation out to diverse talent to join our industry. Because while a lot of us think of golf as a sport, and it is, it's also a business, and a big business. It's an $84 billion business. And we want to make sure that through our intentions with PGA Works, that we are extending that invitation out, that there's so many different avenues or so many different aspects to the industry that we really can invite you out to.
How about this week in particular? How important is a week like this at TPC Harding Park, the 102nd PGA, to share this message?
It's incredibly important, Damon. We know that the PGA Championship is a major. It's what fans thrive for, especially now during COVID. We're really anxious to see our first major championship of the year kind of get underway, but we also want to leverage how impactful how impactful the championship really is to echo this message, to be a megaphone for this message. So we have leveraged the championship to host career exploration events. Typically they are in person. We do have an event, which you are a part of, our Beyond the Green. This year, because it is virtual, we have a virtual Beyond the Green, but it still will have the same elements. It's still under the guise of really extending that invitation out to diverse talent to just get a glimpse into what the golf industry can offer to you as far as career opportunities. So we really want to make sure the championship will come and go. It's a week, it's great, and we're super excited about it. But we want to make sure that we're also using the championship to make a meaningful impact within the community. And I think that's what's ultimately important about the legacy of when we ultimately leave, San Francisco or any of our other host sites, is a community impact that we make.
Such an important message, Rachel. Thanks so much for all you do with PGA Works and the PGA of America. And thanks also for sharing your personal story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and look forward to having you at our Beyond the Green on Wednesday.